Well, I think we should get started. So welcome, everyone. This is the Author Symposium for the Transformations Community's 23 Proceedings in the Social Innovations Journal. So advanced slide, please. Thank you. So our agenda today is we'll have some opening remarks from Nick and his colleague Nicolaj, and then we'll proceed to a brief introduction and context about the conference and the publications and the publication series from me. And then we'll have some journal presentations on the 6 themes that were represented in the special issue, followed by a brief introduction to some of the exciting things that we're doing in the transformations community over the upcoming months. Then we're going to have breakouts because we are an interactive community and we'd love to get as many voices in the room. So we're going to have 20 minutes of breakout sessions, and you'll be asked to choose which room you'd like to be in. So during the presentations, keep an eye on which themes most resonate with you, and you can jump into that room. Then we'll have reflections from each of the rooms, and then just closing remarks, and we'll wrap it up from there. Next slide, please. Here are some just general ground rules. It would be lovely to see all your faces. So if you can please keep your video on, we'd appreciate it. And if you could put your name and your organization in your chat, people could ID you and perhaps follow up with you. Feel free to contact each other on chat if you'd like for follow-ups. Yeah, and there's captions and translations available on Zoom as needed. And remember to unmute yourself, and that's about it. And if you have, well, you don't have to contact Zoom if you need support. Well, forget that piece. All right, well, let's move on. Let's have an introduction from the SIJ folks. Welcome.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm Nicholas Torres, and I'm the co-founder and publisher of the Social Innovations Journal, and we're so excited to have you here. And thank you to Bruce and everyone for partnering with us for another year and another edition. The journal, we started the journal for the simple purpose of saying is that there needed to be a place, primarily for practitioners and people in the social sector, to really share their secrets. Replication scalability in the nonprofit social sector is much more difficult than it is in the private sector, so the journal became a platform for people to really share those different things. The journal's evolved over the last 15 years to be both practitioner-based and also academic-based, and so it's kind of a mix between those two different worlds that we come together. But ultimately, it is an idea to say is we need better communities of practices. We need platforms for us to interact with each other and learn from each other, and therefore the journal is different from other journals simply because we do curated theme-based editions. We do accept open submissions for articles, but the most part we try to put out a theme and concentrate on that particular theme. So when somebody really wants to learn about a subject and connect to community, it's all there for them. And therefore, you know, we partner with global experts within this, and therefore that brings us to this edition. Next slide. So we do the 6 editions annually. We do have the themes of education, human services, social mobility, and health. Those are our primary themes, but they're framed within what the journal is about is innovation, social enterprise, system change, policy, and collaborations. And as you see on the bottom, these are our curation partners from Ashoka Tamarack Institute Transformation Communities, the Network Towards Unity for Health, Wood System of Care, and Atmasaki Trust, most global organizations. And again, those may change, but we found that these are amazing partners and global experts. Next slide. And with that, like I said, although they're curated, if you have an article you'd like to submit, we do accept those, and when appropriate, we put those within those themes as we publish 6 times a year. So thank you again and welcome, and back to you, Bruce.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, and I really want to put out my appreciation to you and your journal, Nick. You're amazing partners and have made this a pleasurable experience putting these together. The flexibility and the creativity and the alignment that we've had has been great these last 3 years during our special issues. So thanks, Nick, and thanks, Nicolaj, and your team. So the transformations community. Well, by the way, hi everyone. I'm Bruce Goldstein. I'm the lead weaver of the transformations community and also associate professor at University of Colorado Boulder. But I'm not in Boulder. I'm in the Crazy Bean here in Honduras. Fortunately avoiding the -11 Fahrenheit temperatures currently in Boulder. So the Transformations community is a global network of action-oriented researchers and reflective practitioners. And so what you do, you support transformations to just sustainable, regenerative futures. And so we've been organizing workshops and conferences and dialogues since 2013. And our idea, our main mission is to enable practitioners to bring desirable transformations to life. We've been in Norway, we've been in Sweden, Scotland, Chile, and online during the pandemic. And these events have been a creative and welcoming space. We deliberately defy conventional dog and pony show style presentations and have really all about interaction, helping people come together in dialogue and practice. Next slide, please. So our 2023 conference, as you know, was a humdinger. It was amazing. We were in multiple locations. We were in Sydney, Australia. We had an online conference. We were also in the Czech Republic. We were in Czechia during the European Hub Conference. We also had a North American Hub workshop in Portland, Maine. So multiple sites as well as global integration. So appropriately enough, our theme was Partnerships for a Better Future. We had over 700 attendees, 250 plus sessions, over 400 speakers. This blew out the records for us as a community in terms of global engagement and really leaned into our desire to make it accessible and global. And so I really just want to put a quick thanks to our local hosts, our guides. Julia Levinton, Chris Reedy, and Glenn Page did an amazing job of organizing fascinating, engaging events. And our staff, Nick Graham, Thomas Hasselbach, Anna Negalia, Monta Montazoni, Paul Chukwama, Kim Senitzer, and Shane Kelly. Team, you did an amazing job this year in creating and holding together this complex set of events and creating global integration. So thank you so much. And of course, our members were there in the 2 departments of magic we maintained that did design work on how to pull together this global event. Our sense makers, our thought catalysts, our synthesizers, and everyone who participated. I want to thank you for making this year's conference series an amazing success. Next slide. So here we are with our special issue. We actually have 3 publications that came out of this conference. We have a special issue of current research and sustainability that's going to come out in about 3 months. We have an ongoing special issue in current opinion and sustainability, where we have synthesis articles. This one, well, was our main event. We had 28 articles in this 3rd annual publication that we've done in partnership with Social Innovations Journal, and in 5 sections, and covered an amazing range of topics. And we've complemented the publication of the special issue with lots of social media. So we're LinkedIn, Twitter, we put things on the website. So the idea is we're trying to get out your ideas to a variety of different audiences. If you go to the link on our website, you can see we've created a number of special elements that feature each paper. So we're really trying to get the word out in as many formats and places as possible. Since we have a very eclectic membership, we want folks to be able to access this material in a variety of different ways. So we're very actively engaging and promoting your publication work. And so, yeah, next slide, please. Big thanks to our associate editors on this journal. So these folks managed the peer review process and coordinated response with the author, and couldn't have done it without their commitment, dedication. You know how hard it is these days to get peer reviewers. Well, we got everything peer reviewed excellently and got responses back to the authors and got revisions. So thank you, associate editors. So next slide, please. So now we're going to go into our 6 presentations on the sections, the themes of this publication. So the way we're going to do this is they're each going to have about 5 minutes to describe their work and and how it integrates and the other papers that were in their theme session. Speakers, you'll hear a little beep at 4 minutes and 30 seconds to indicate that you're approaching your allotted time. And for folks who are here with us, note which of these folks and themes you'd like to follow up with and write it down, because at the end you'll have an opportunity to jump into a breakout session with that author and discuss some of the ideas in that theme. Oh, we're having a little blankety blank going on our screen, but let's go on to the next one and hope it goes away. Great, thanks. So our first speaker is Glory D. Romo, and she's going to discuss transformative partnerships. Welcome, Glory D.
Hi, everyone. A pleasant evening from the Philippines. So, the Mariana and I, Mariana and I worked on a synthesis for the theme, which was about transformative policy institutions and organizations. Should I share my screen or Anthony?
I'm just getting it up, Gloria.
Okay,
Give me
yeah. So
1 second and I'll share.
So this theme is actually about institutional arrangements, organizational structures and forms, and how policy making could be inclusive, and how transformation works across multiple scales look like. So there were two papers that were presented. So Mariana presented about national security, and I presented about enabling mechanisms for gender research in the agriculture, aquatic, and natural resources in the Philippines. Next slide, please. So in this particular presentation, it's about, next slide. So next slide, thank you. So it's actually about the academic institutions research agenda, and how this can be shaped through a funding agency's framework and agenda that would include and encourage and capacitate both the experienced and the young faculty members to engage in different types of research and to collaborate. Whereas the next one, which is the Transforming the National Security System by Mariana, it's about the national security system, and it involves not only militaries and defense, but also food security and cybersecurity, among others. And that human partnership is really important in shaping the national security system in the way that people need and want. And also by acknowledging that there are varied human experiences and diverse background. And this is the paradigm shift that we all need, so we can have the good partnerships that would enable an inclusive future and a more human-centered system. Next slide, please. So there were several key insights from this workshop. First, the small but may seem very unproductive to an individual, small but very unproductive change to an individual, but repeated actions may result in longer term outcomes. So it's very important that we also think holistically as part of a principle of resilience thinking, because this encourages failure as long as the final targeted outcome is achieved. And ultimately, this is very important in changes. Second is that like-minded people are interested to create an experiment together. So while partnership and allies are important in creating changes, the individual intrinsic drivers may also be enough to trigger a change. Third, it's also recommended to look at each organization in its own unique characteristics, challenges, and enabling conditions. So in changes, it's very important to create a mental or emotional space that would allow people to grieve, because they may lose something from these changes. And this one was very new to me when I attended the session. So a very eye-opening part. And then fourth, there's a need to develop transformational leaders who can lead positive changes. Next slide, please. So there were two themes that were drawn out from a transformative policy. The first one is, it is recommended to get out of what feels comfortable for each individual. And aside from that, we also need a community of support in this transformational journey, which may start with small changes. Second, globally, inclusivity has been enhanced through partnerships and co-design activities. Next slide, please. Yes. So from these themes, there are 9 principles that have been identified as important in creating transformative changes. So number 1, that's embedding new elements in the current structures. Second, patience is very important when it comes to the pace of change. So sometimes the change is very slow. Third, being comfortable with complexities and uncertainties. Fourth, understanding that it may take a tribe or a community of practice in based on what we discussed to effect a positive change. Fifth, norms may have to be institutionalized for a positive transformation for opportunities like for self-care and reconnection with other people. And inclusion it's very important for a successful transformation to happen. Next, partnerships are also very important in a positive transformation. And second to the last, that's recognizing that organizational cultures and characteristics are unique, and so this should not be generalized. And lastly, enhancing tribes or communities of practice, which enable a safe space for collaborative partnerships, is also very important. Next slide, please. Yeah, and that ends my discussion. Thank you so much for attending this session.
Excellent. Thank you, Glory D. Fantastic. Lots of great ideas to chew on in our breakout later on. So let's go back to the slides. Okay, next slide, please. One more. Yes, so our next presenter is Brian Jenkins. Welcome, Brian. You're going to be talking about transformative policies and practices.
Thanks, Bruce. Hi, I'm Brian Jenkins. I'm a sustainability strategist at the University of Adelaide. For the connections between the papers on transformative policies and practices, I'll first describe the transformation process set out in my paper and then show how each of the other papers relate to this process. Right, the next slide, please. And that's it. And the process sets out 3 main components. One is the assessment process, the next is the transformation design process, and the third is management interventions. Each component is based on Holling's adaptive cycle of exploitation, accumulation, disturbance, and reorganisation. For the assessment process, there is impact assessment associated with the exploitation phase, cumulative assessment associated with the accumulation phase, resilience assessment associated with the disturbance phase, and recovery assessment associated with the reorganisation phase. If recovery cannot be achieved, then there is the transformation design process with the following steps. The exploitation phase is the use of human and technical and economic resources to address a resource management issue. The accumulation phase is the accumulation of knowledge, social, cultural, and economic capital to develop integrated approaches to sustainability strategies. The disturbance phase is the formulation of new approaches of management that change existing practices. The reorganisation phase is the development of new social systems to implement new approaches to management. And the new social systems can lead to adopting management interventions leading to a sustainability strategy. The management interventions are of 4 generic types: reducing pressure on resources in the exploitation phase, addressing legacy issues of accumulated changes in the past in the accumulation phase, increasing the resilience of the systems in the disturbance phase, and rehabilitating adverse effects on the system for the reorganisation phase. Can I have the next slide, please? The first of the other papers is Sarah Velton's paper on biodiversity conservation in agricultural landscapes in the European Union. To address the agricultural impact on biodiversity, the Common Agricultural Policy included environmental goals as a means of recovery. However, this was ineffective due to low uptake by farmers. In the transformation process, research was undertaken to understand farmers' decisions, and socio-ecological modelling was performed for each of these possible support schemes. And you can see these elements in red on the slide. A new approach, the Common Agricultural Policy for Green Infrastructure, is being trialled. It creates a new institutional arrangement based on a co-design process involving a multi-level exchange platform. The approach of farmer involvement supported by multi-level social structure has similarities with the successful Xinjiang example that was in my paper. Can I have the next slide, please? Again, if you look at the red entries, Robin Crabb's paper is concerned with the social pathology of current institutions undermining the resilience of our socio-ecological life support systems and the need to transform these dysfunctional institutions to achieve recovery. A need is seen for increased cooperation, transcending the current desire for independence. A new approach is proposed of people receiving a community basic income for engaging in beneficial activities. A co-design process is envisaged with a new institutional structure of a community coalition with wide representation of community institutions and community connectors who elicit community ideas for beneficial activities. The community basic income approach has some similarities with China's payments for ecosystem services that have achieved significant improvements in vegetative cover on the highly degraded Loess Plateau in China, but under an authoritarian institutional structure. The next slide, please. Tani Kara's paper is concerned with the cumulative impact of increased meat consumption in India as a marker of status. The transformation that is sought is the encouragement of a more sustainable diet. The approach suggested to achieve this concept is voluntary simplicity. This is consistent with the Brahman concept of ahisma, which continues to make vegetarianism a popular dietary choice. The next slide, please. Select Salter's paper discusses an appreciative inquiry case study of research pods. This approach confronts the current medical research paradigm that focuses on a specific illness involving a large research team and a fixed hierarchical structure. The alternative research pods is based on the Teal organization theory with 3 pillars of wholeness, self-management, and evolutionary purpose. 5 posters from the research pods were accepted at the most recent homeopathic medicine conference. The next slide, please. Lewis Klein's paper considers evaluation in a world that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Discusses the Tamkeen process from Morocco. The Tamkeen process can be characterized as an experience-based, relationship-oriented process of inquiry, learning, and understanding. It is part of the transformation process that is emerging and organic. There's a shared understanding as an evaluation for transformation. As you can see from the papers, we can see different forms of assessment leading to a perceived need for transformation, as well as a diverse range of new approaches and institutional structures to deliver the transformation. It will be interesting to see how these transformation approaches are converted into management interventions. Thank you.
Fantastic, Brian. I'd love that framework and kind of situating everyone in the framework, seeing our commonalities as a community, as well as the sort of ways we focus on different sub-elements. That's really intriguing. I think I'm gonna adopt that myself in some of my work. Thank you for sharing that. So our next presenter is Marco Geiger. He's going to talk about the section, the theme section on co-producing transformative knowledge. Welcome, Marco.
Thanks a lot, Bruce. Thanks for having us. And also respecting the title of this section of the journal, I won't do this alone. And also because the work towards regeneration is much about co-creation. That's why I brought Marie-Pascale with me, who will hold these 5 minutes with me together. And we will change a little bit in between. First, we will give you a little overview over the 5 papers and then focus more on the intersections and connections of the 5 papers. Or in other words, the common ground or how the different papers, they mirror each other. And these papers in this section of this special issue, they provide a mosaic of transformative ideas and strategies centered on learning and knowledge practice. So with that, I give over to Marie-Pascale. Maybe you go next slide, because then you can see all the different articles. I cannot hear you, Marie-Pascale, if you're talking.
Sorry, now you should be able to hear me. Yeah, I was just saying that's an excellent overview. Thanks for the slide. So there was one paper by Samuel Wern in which he challenges the academic structures that shape which kinds of knowledge actually gain power and who are seen as the experts, and how change is then pursued. And in that paper, he states that sustainability research can't approach knowledge in ways that are more plural, contextual, and decolonial, and deliberately co-produced, as long as this academic structure remains unchanged. And he calls his paper speculative, and explores in there where there might be opportunities for strategic interventions in the academic structures.
Yes, in Solstice Middleby's work, you will find a critically examination of power imbalances in development practices. The author states that development practitioners, while positioned as agents of change, frequently find themselves upholding the status quo due to entrenched operational norms and financial dependencies. So nothing changes. The paper also advocates for reimagined approach that centers more on genuine collaboration, really local empowerment, and equitable distribution of power.
And then there's the concept of relational transdisciplinarity, which is proposed by Farina L. Togsdorf and her colleagues. And it further underscores the necessity of collaboration, reciprocal learning processes in sustainability research. And in their paper, they develop 5 reflexive steps for embodying the relations ontologies in transdisciplinary learning contexts. And these steps are all described in the paper, and they move from step 1, acknowledging the value and importance of building relationships for transdisciplinary learning, and move all the way up to step 5, recognizing the values of interconnectedness.
And the 4th paper is from Lily van Eden and colleagues, and they utilize a participatory future visioning approach and the appreciative inquiry methodology, emphasizing the development of reciprocal relationships with nature to really co-produce transformative knowledge for enhancing nature conservation policies and practices.
Yeah, and then lastly, there's the paper which Luea Ritter published with her team, us. Marco and I are present today. There was another collaborator. And in this paper, it focuses on our team's insights from the World Ethic Forum, highlighting the importance of inclusive and transformative learning processes rooted in an ecocentric worldview, through the example of describing and utilizing 2 methodologies, which are generative scribing and then working with that image social field resonance.
With that, we jump over to interconnecting those 5 articles a little bit. As you imagine, it was a delight to read all these articles and see mirroring ideas that were in our papers and our research, and really connecting that. And we try that now. And if you really want to acknowledge the depth of all this transformational work that we all do towards regenerative lives within planetary boundaries, there is one common ground of all the papers in this section. That is that this work really cannot be done alone, but in circles or fields of coherence, and that many different voices across topics, across sectors are needed to really address all that. It is about being in relations with oneself and all forms of life. Like, we are in this crisis together and working towards, quote unquote, a more regenerative world, we need the assumption or the baseline of kinship. That's also like the way Donna Haraway said that. In daily actions, in the research, but also in doing the work on a micro and on a macro level, as the intention is to really rethink structures and stop reproducing patterns, rather transforming their underlying causes.
Yeah, we found that in our sections, there are 3 papers that talk about power imbalances. There's Middleby, who talks about the power imbalances between countries, and then Verne, who, as mentioned, talks about the imbalances in academia. And they both emphasize on pluralism and the role of decolonization to help rebalance those imbalances. And these 2 themes are also important as part of the worldview. So sorry, now I lost my thread. These 2 themes are also important for us at the World Ethic Forum, where we focus more on the imbalance between the human and the more than human aliveness.
So I will quickly land our section. Like there's 3 papers that also focus on specific practices, like embodied practices. That's Van Eden, our own paper, and also Talkstov's paper, if you look at those 5 steps as a methodology. And what's really beautiful, all articles, they underline the possibilities to navigate through and be with the polycrisis in a resilient and active way. It is a call to deeply shift and really upgrade the way we collectively look at the world and everything connected to that perspective. And that will change everything. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you, Marka. Thank you, Marie. That was really rich. And it's something we can pick up on as a community. How can we engage in this kind of community building and co-production of knowledge as a community as we relate to our partners and the folks we work with out there in the world? It's something that Juliana is going to touch on is in our evolution of the community. How can we reflect? How can we mirror the goals of sort of our epistemic and ontological goals in our own research? So thank you very much. So next slide, please. So unfortunately, Sydney Hay could not be joining us today since her plane was delayed. We had a perfect plan, but you know about perfect plans, they get disrupted. And she's currently in the air after some flight delays. But Sydney will be providing her summary, which we will be sharing on our website. So moving along to our next section. So now David Tabara, who is a former conference organizer who put together a conference during COVID, amazingly successful conference on the fly. So he's a miracle worker, basically. So welcome, David. Thanks for talking about our State of the Field session.
Thank you very much, Bruce, and everybody who actually allowing me to reflect on the papers and this special issue. And actually, it was helpful for me as a person to, after having finished a large project for almost 4-year project. So it's good also to see yourself a bit back what happened. So thank you very much for this opportunity and for all being here. Our section, as you can see, had all these papers, about five papers. The first one on the state of the transformation community, with a panel that of the former conference organizers. And I will refer to that also. Then the following was on the state of the evaluation and assessment of transformation, using transformation either as a topic of assessment or also as a criteria for evaluation. So that was also a very interesting approach. I really enjoyed also the paper on systems education, Bruce, and I have some thoughts about that, which I will also refer. Next, also the field on network leadership and the importance of team leadership and different ways of understanding leadership. And finally, there was a paper on financial systemic transformations, given that the present ways of financing is not adequate to address systemic transformations. So instead of going just paper by paper, I just thought to have some general thoughts about the evolution of the field and how all the different contributions have things in common. So the first thing I saw from the reading of these papers is that the number of themes and change agents being engaged along all these years is increasing. It's increasing, so the community is getting richer and richer. And I wouldn't say it's just only growing in numbers, but also it's growing, is having a qualitative change itself, is increasing in terms of improved concepts, improved tools, engagement methods. So, and I think it's perhaps now time to look back at what we start, where we started. And actually, I took one of the a quote from Karen O'Brien from reflecting back in 2013 when she started the first conference. She said, at that time, the socio-technical community was very vibrant, but there was no space to have deeper conversations about what we mean by transformations and how it happens. And now I think we have created this space. We have the tools. We have managed to reach a lot of people. And I actually would recommend to everybody here to have a look at the report, which actually was produced at the same time of the French conference of that Karen O'Brien organized in Oslo. It was the World Social Science report of 2013, which was actually, for me, the kickstart of the transformation community and concepts. A lot of us were very disappointed about the socio-technical transitions dialogues. And then we created the space, basically, Karen and others, all of you, created a space where we actually could start thinking in terms of more non-linear and systemic transformation. Also introduce the issues of sustainability, taking into account all these equity issues. So that's a little. I think all these themes cross along the whole papers, and some more specifics around papers is like in this state of the field sessions there was some criteria, criteria that now we can use. No, the 4 T's talk. No, the 4 T's: temperance, transdisciplinary, translocalism, transformative learning. And I think all can use this new concept, this new criteria that people are identifying from reflections of the last conference to update the work done over the last decade. And I think that's something that we can learn. How we can learn. So to me, the transformation community is an ideal place for developing those enabling conditions for transformation. So basically, it's the enable conditions previous to the transformations, because we don't know whether transformations will occur, when or how. We know that we can create the conditions and the capacities for those transformations. Yeah, so I think I'm going to start that because probably I spent my 5 minutes already, but I have a lot of notes that I might be happy to share with you in the breakout room.
Thanks, David. Wow, it's fantastic to hear that broad sweep of perspective on where we've been, where we're headed, and how we've evolved. It's you know, it really, it feels like we do have so much more potential now, and so the question for me is, how do we develop that potential as a community, as a collective? And so Juliana, in our next presentation, is going to talk about an effort, a full day effort that we engaged in at the end of the Prague conference to do exactly that, to reflect on what is the potential of the transformations community and where should we go as a community to build on our successes and lean into these new capacities. So welcome, Juliana.
Thanks, Bruce. So I'll be focusing on just that last article, which actually was included in the State of the Field section, and that was entitled Sense Making, the Transformation Community's Future. So this is really a collective effort. It was brought together through actually 14 different sense makers that we had based in Prague that were really a fantastic team. I want to highlight basically some of the key processes that we did in developing that SenseMaker team and that final day, that reflection session that we had together, but also some of the key outcomes that really germinated from the insights provided by our SenseMakers. So just quickly, the article began really by grounding us together, which is also a part of the process of the SenseMakers, because we really wanted to make sure that everybody understood sort of the journey that the transformations community has been on. And so this article actually helps the readers to also go through that same process. So it highlights some of the key attributes of the members of the Transformative community, much of which were actually exemplified in some of the presentations given today. So I won't go into detail about those, but some of the key themes that kept coming over and over again is this co-design and participatory processes, strong commitments to social justice and equity, openness to and support for personal and interpersonal changes through especially transformative learning, and this desire to really overcome and experiment with ways to overcome systemic rigidity and institutional constraints. So our article really delves into a focus on the insights and recommendations of our curated group, which we called Sensemakers. And this was specifically for the Prague site, but we also had other teams that were working in similar fashions with their own design, such as our theme catalysts that were based in Australia. And so the role of the Sensemakers is really to engage in a deep reflective process, helping to synthesize their experiences and the broader collective experience of the conference and chart ideas for our desired future for the trajectories of this transformations community. So we brought together, as I mentioned, 14 individuals who were chosen really based on experience, but also this desire to capture a wide variety of research and practitioner perspectives and experiences. The individuals were asked to embody the principles of deep listening, observation, and sensing, inspired by Otto Scharmer's work of Theory U, which many of you are likely familiar with. And he was actually a featured talk, a keynote talk at our conference. And the Sensemakers were actively engaged throughout the conference in different sessions, some of them leading sessions. They initiated and guided thematic conversations that we really curated using different forms, including our Whova platform, and engaged in different dialogues using the conference tools available to them, and documented their perspectives and realizations throughout the event's duration, which included some video reflections that were actually featured across the different conference sites, enabling us to really bring some of these key takeaways together and to enable some engagement across sites, which was a core goal. So I'm not going to go into who the Sensemakers are. They're all outlined that were at least able to participate in this final gathering. But I do want to mention 3 that weren't a part of the final gathering because they couldn't stay for that last day after the conference. So I just highlight Johan Feze, David Manuel Navarrete, and Carolina Carvalho. But there's full details and bios of the other Sensemakers that were participating and had a chance to really reflect in this article. So please check them out. So in addition to that, I just wanted to note that while we had a different approach than the theme catalysts who were in Sydney, they were really instrumental in helping us to think about our design for the Sensemaker experience, including our final day post-conference gathering. So returning to that gathering, the following set of questions were really what shaped the day's discussion. And these are likely to be instrumental in how we think about our collective efforts moving forward. So how do we understand and interpret the shared purpose emerging from this transformations community? What strengths and capacities or needs and gaps are you sensing from the community? And how can we better leverage those in service of the collective action? What do you feel called to contribute? So this is more of a personal reflection, and how might you show up in this community moving forward? And then what are some possible next steps so we can take these actions forward? And so this dialogue really was something that we wanted to make sure that we captured properly. So we recorded, transcribed, and analyzed it. And then that culminated in a narrative form, which really served us in terms of producing this article together. And so some of the key takeaways really centered around 2 different things. One was 4 organizing principles, which I'll talk about in a second. And then the other was 4 potential engagement pathways to guide the transformations community forward. And so those 4 key principles, which are highlighted in greater detail and are a running theme throughout the article, is temperance, which we defined as enabling agency and coherence, transdisciplinarity, which we defined as co-learning across the barriers between disciplines, cultures, paradigms, knowledge, and practice, translocalism, which we define as connectivity and placemaking across geographies and cultures, and then transformative learning, which is the deep shifts in understanding through disruptive learning. And these principles really highlight the interplay between individual and collective agency, collaborative action, reflexivity, and alignment across sectors and places, as well as this deep need to draw upon the unique capacities across the scholar-practitioner continuum, which is really the lifeblood of this transformations community. And so the following 4 engagement pathways were proposed as ways to really help us chart a course forward. And these really bring into a lot of the key aspects and approaches that we've been using throughout the transformations community since its existence, which include transformative learning, capacity building, and strategic action, as well as deep reflection. And so how do we carry that forward? We thought about integrating decentralized and network conferences, developing digital resource sharing platforms for resource sharing and community building across our growing global community, developing collaborative workspaces for extended projects and creating a home place for us to really gather in a more frequent fashion, and then developing strategic partnerships or continuing to grow the ones that we have to amplify our collective impact. And then in more shorter term, so those are kind of the long-term goals there, but in the shorter term, we thought about what do we need to do together to start moving and build on our momentum. And some of the things that we acknowledged in this gathering was organizing future conferences and continuing on that, how we want to evolve them and think about this new design that we did this past year that we want to maybe, continue to refine and build on in the future. And then how do we develop long-term governance structures for this growing community that really nurture its growth in alignment with the 4 T's. So I will end there, and Bruce will pick up on some of these themes as we continue.
Excellent. Thanks, Juliana. Yeah, the sense-making process was really rich. It was to spend a day reflecting with folks after attending the conference was a great experience, and I think we'll create more opportunities to do that in the spirit of exactly what you were discussing, Juliana. How we need to create more opportunities for collective small group interaction and real considered thought that we can do together. And so let's go to the next slide. We've been thinking about this. What can we do to operationalize the things that Juliana has just described, all the ambitions that we have as a community? We have limited resources, but we have big ambitions. So where do you start? And in the spirit of prototyping, we've initiated a few small additions to our conference planning. And I wanted to share 2 of them with you before we go into breakouts to give you the opportunity to reflect on these, and if you'd like during breakouts, discuss them and whether you might want to be involved, but also consider other possibilities. We're very open to members of our community coming to forward us with partner opportunities and ways that we as a staff, as now that we have this capacity, staff support, website, all the appurtenances of a professional community, what can we do to support the community to achieve some of the ambitions that Juliana just laid out? So the first one, let me describe these 3 things. The first one that we're going to do together is to do a learning journey on the design and management of transformations initiatives. So where this is coming from is when we think about the 4 T's that Juliana just described, and we all seem to share we have a strange attractors in a way. We share certain common characteristics despite our diversity. We are a transdisciplinary community. We promote co-learning and knowledge production, and we are oriented toward action. We challenge power relationships in the ways that Juliana just described. And for many of us, this involves being institutional entrepreneurs in a way. We create and maintain organizations and initiatives that operate beyond the constraints associated with the conventional institutions many of us are associated with. And what does this look like? This is like things like citizen science, collaborative research, and action research, and co-design and co-development, community engaged scholarships, living labs, learning networks. It's a menagerie of possibilities that we've put up. So we want to look closely at some of these things and identify, by engaging with some of the practitioners in co-learning, what are some of the secret sauce associated with designing, managing, building, facilitating, and maintaining these kinds of structures, these kinds of institutions? So we want to bring together a small group, or perhaps a set of small groups, to explore how to share ideas and maybe share come together in discussion with practitioners, join in webinars that we can share with the broader community and conferences, engage in online discussion using some of the platforms Juliana mentioned, perhaps even develop some projects together that are fundable, and collaborate on future publications, perhaps in a future edition of SIJ or in our 25 conference. So that's an invitation to all of you if you're interested in that topic. How do you design and manage transformations initiatives? We're going to put a registration. There's a bit.ly that we're going to share in chat right now. It's basically a short questionnaire asking you if you're interested in being involved in one of these things or something else. So hit that link and just share your name and interest with us, and we'll follow up with you if you're interested in being a part of this learning journey around transformations initiatives. The second thing I want to share with you before we go into breakout is our AI initiative. So artificial intelligence, we're all excited about the possibilities and the dangers associated with AI and its implications for sustainability transformations. We all know it's an incredible tool for editing and information search, and I used it pretty heavily in producing all those summary articles of the state of the field, and it was pretty darn useful, I have to say. It also, all these new applications are coming up, how we can use it to balance energy grids. There's new initiatives like the Global AI for Climate Initiative. And then opportunities that people have identified, it may lead to increased leisure and maybe the adoption of a universal basic income. There's enormous time saving and energy saving possibilities through AI. Someone calculated at CU Irvine recently that if you do a mid-journey image, the carbon cost of creating that image is 3,000 times less than having an artist create it in terms of the time and energy an artist devotes to it. But we also have reservations, don't we? I mean, people are still on whether they're producing art or not. So the question of those carbon savings is a little dubious. And AI is very incredibly energy intensive itself. You know, it takes to produce one image is like charging an entire smartphone. I read that the IMF says that 40% of jobs are threatened, maybe affected by AI, and it would probably worsen inequality. And do we need all this new processing power if we have 8 billion people on Earth who are intelligent, adaptable, and motivated to do amazing things? So we want to look at the possibilities and potential and perils of AI as a community. And we want to do 3 different things. First of all, we're interested in what AI tools are emerging that can actually assist our work. So practically, what's out there that can help us do what we're doing better, that can assist us, not replace us in our work? What are the implications for our work? The second thing we want to do in this learning journey that we're inviting you to be a part of is look more broadly at how AI is reshaping the possibilities for transformations in practice and sustainability. And the third thing is we want to develop our own chatbot. So we're developing a transformations chatbot to incorporate a lot of the ideas that are out there in disparate settings. You know, it's so hard to get your arms around the field of transformations. We're in so many different subfields, so many different journals, so many different professional publications. So we're designing a chatbot to see if we can get a kind of electronic sense-making tool to help ourselves put our arms around this field and identify the sources and ideas that we need to do our work more effectively. So we're already in process. So I want to invite Alex Tingaris, who's our technology lead, to do a quick demo for us. So Alex, welcome. Why don't you share your demo of our work in progress, our chatbot?
Thanks so much, Bruce. Yeah, hi everyone. Nice to be sharing this with you guys today. This is a very early prototype, but we were able to get something ready for y'all just to be able to start thinking of some of the possibilities with how AI can be used to help think through some of these transformation questions that all the research that you just shared. So just a very brief little demo here. Some of the questions we can engage with. We've loaded in a lot of the data from just like the body of literature, as well as most recently the articles from the SIJ special issue. So asking just a quick sample question here, is personal transformation part of what practitioners mean by sustainability transformations? Takes a second to generate. And one of the key differences here and reasons for starting to develop our own models is to be able to very pointedly find answers to the questions based on the current research and data. So you'll notice even in the response here, it's saying the panel discussion suggests personal transformation, particularly through practices citing exactly your work is an important component of sustainability research. And we have these little citations here where you can see exactly where that source is coming from and reach out to the paper directly there to learn more. Zoom is blocking this here. You can continue to engage with these conversations. So I have saved a few just because it's still an early demo. So seeing, that it can produce, go off topic or whatever. We have some examples here just of how you can converse with these to develop further ideas and ask more questions. Again, always in every response, always citing its sources. And it can cite sources across literature. So if you have something that's not necessarily related to what one paper was working on, you can explore those intersections and find others in the community who are doing complementary studies. Another example too, very directly with the transformations community asking exactly from the conference how to synthesize certain ideas. So playing off of the last presentation, identify ways we can support members in the coming year. And you'll see a lot of these exact points brought up exactly from the presentations and work. So yeah, very quick demo. Just like Bruce said, looking for people to help with collaboration or just learn more. But I'm excited to be joining you all this year to be helping with that. So thanks so much.
Pretty impressive, eh? I think it's amazing what this tool can do. Lightning. And so I think that's what our learning journey will be, is to explore the potential of this, but also reflect on its, on the implications of this for transformations within. So please join us for this. We're going to bring this demo, this more evolved chatbot to the SRI conference in Finland this June. So we've submitted a session there. So we're going to be represented as a community. So the idea is that we're going to reflect on the possibilities and potential of AI, actually create a chatbot, and then start to share that in the world about mid-year. So come join us for that learning journey as well. And finally, it's worth mentioning our next big event, our 7th conference, is going to be in 2025, and we're still recruiting local hosts. So if you have the possibility of offering a conference or a workshop and you'd like our partnership in this, please get in touch with us, or you can indicate that on the forum. We've developed some really effective experience and expertise in recruitment, publicity, registration, social media, and managing hybrid participation to enable our local hosts to really lean into making a fantastic engaged event with art, with field work, and with possibilities of rich discussion. So we're looking for partners to do that. So if you or anyone you know is interested in hosting an event, we'd like to explore partnering with you. So let's get in touch. Okay, let's go to our next slide, please. So right now we're going to go into breakouts. So we're going to explore these 3 questions. Our leads who introduced each theme are going to be our facilitators in breakout. So run your eyes over those questions. Our leads are going to take those questions into conversation. So again, it's what aspects of your work are particularly inspiring or energizing within the theme. Within the context of the theme, what are some trends or emerging topics? And is there anything you'd like to share that's going on in the theme that you were looking for partnerships or want to just share ideas about? And more broadly, what would you like to do as members, as participants in this community? Would you like to lead something? This is a great time to bring it up and talk it over with some members. So we're going to do that for about 15 minutes, and then we'll have some sharing and reflections after that once we come back together as a group. Next slide, please. So just to remind you of our 5 presenters, and you can choose which one you would like to join in a breakout room. We're about to share the breakout rooms with you. So opt into one of these rooms, and you'll be greeted there by the person you just heard speak, and they will guide you through a discussion and reflection on what you've heard and the possibilities for the future of the community, and then we'll come back together and share a few ideas. So let's see, let's go ahead and share that.
Sure. So just to clarify, the breakout rooms will open. You will have about 30 to 60 seconds to choose a room, or otherwise you will be automatically assigned into a room. So with that, I will open the rooms and start the breakouts.
Okay, I believe we're all back. Hope you had a great breakout. I met some really interesting folks I hadn't met before there. So I think that's mission accomplished right there to extend our community. Nikolaj, will you throw the slides back up?
I didn't have the slides, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, Anthony. Yeah, I just
right.
want to make sure I'm doing this right. So yeah, so why don't we start from the top? Glory D, why don't you tell us what was shared during your breakout?
Hi, good evening. So as for the first question, what aspects of your work within the transformative partnerships are particularly inspiring or energizing for you? It's more of about the connecting and inspiring people and the community element and the solidarity that you get from it. And also there's learning from other people and an opportunity to share challenges. So, and then for the second one, what are the emerging trends? Because of the pandemic that sort of triggered the online meetings, online developing partnerships, and enhancing these partnerships through online meetings. And there are also some issues, some concerns or that are being addressed through transformational partnerships like the othering political movements. And through these transformative partnerships, there's like enough space to address the issues of othering. We were not able to answer the third one, but let me just share that before I attended the Transformations Community Conference, my work isn't really much about the topics that we discussed during the workshop, and some of the topics that we discussed, like grieving because of the change, was something new to me, and I really appreciated when I attended that event. So yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Gloria D, and I appreciate that personal reflection. That really lands with me. Brian, over to you. Brian, if you're there, you might be on mute. Perhaps, would anyone from Brian's group like to speak up? Brian isn't currently on the line.
Sorry, Bruce.
Oh, okay, there you are.
Yeah, Anthony was taking some notes. So, Anthony, do you want to cover it, or will I go from my brief notes? Which would be the best?
I think you can take it, Bruce. Brian, sorry.
Okay. It was interesting to see we only had a relatively small group. In talking about what energizes people, one of the key comments was that being able to identify people in similar areas of interest. The specific area was in terms of medical care. What are the different models of medical care? What is working? And the ability to develop a group to look at what transformations would be relevant to their particular professional development that they could learn from others. So I think that's one of the key issues. The other was in relation to the opportunities that exist in terms of getting involved. How do we deal with a lot of the political imbalances through acting as a transformation community, acting as citizens in citizen action areas, and concerns about the way that some of the political processes are coming up with outcomes which we feel as being less than desirable. And if we had greater influences on those processes, we would be able to have outcomes, political outcomes, that were more in tune with a wider range of people than what the current political processes provide. The other component that I think was important is there's been a lot of discussion of models of change, of types of change, institutional changes, but very little on how to achieve implementation successfully. So they're probably the key points, Bruce.
Thanks, Brian. Marco, you're up next.
Yes, Mari, Pascal, and I are up next, and we made a little scribing of the things that were shared. And so I asked Mari Pascal to share the screen so that everybody can see what occurred, because I didn't see it yet myself. I only know what I heard. So let's see.
So this
what is
is
there.
really sorry, 1 second.
Sorry for the delay.
Here we go. It's for the prime now too. I'm going to start with a quick overview. There we have fields that so
Maybe you switch off the video because we cannot hear you so well.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Unless you just talk. I was just saying that we had like somebody from citizen science in our group, and then Alex with this AI topic, and also somebody working in education. Margaret, do you want to recap any thoughts?
Yes, but what was interesting is really that in the AI perspective, you had also this question of ethical responsibility that is also a big part of the World Ethic Forum, and also in the topic that was shared by Nadine in the education perspective was like she's struggling with the transformation of her organization that wants to enable more people to be included in schools with different services, and is really in the beginning of that transformation, has many questions. And also regarding AI, how do we collect data in an ethical way? And also when we like do citizen science, when we include normal people into academic research, how can we do that in an ethical way? So this is also like a lot of collaboration that is here came together in that little group that we had. Yeah, I think the image sums it up pretty well. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Mark Pascal. Yeah, thank you, Marco. I love the multimodal learning. That's really is a different kind of experiencing, isn't it? You get a really different sense of the totality of the conversation. So since we only have a few minutes left, let's move right along. We're going to go on to David Tabara.
Hello, we didn't have much time either, so I will be very brief, but I think our topic was mostly on education, but also the role of new tools and particular AI as well. And the role of these new tools, how can these roles can help or not in terms of supporting transformations. That was one topic. The other topic was I found particularly interesting is the anxiety and grief of many students as well when thinking about all the challenges that they face and how to deal with these anxieties and this. In particular, it was proposed that it is important to help people to think in terms of futures. Future works helps people to reduce the anxiety and to get ownership of the present and also of the future. And Marilyn and both Marilyn we're discussing some books that they have been working on this, and I hope that she can also share these ideas on the chat. I particularly think that this idea of dealing with anxiety and grief is very important, and particular how to keep healthy. I don't think mentally and physically healthy, and for that we also need spaces, open outdoor spaces, enabling conditions for people to keep mentally healthy, because it's not really healthy to spend the whole day in front of the computer or chatting with mobile phones. So I think there is also the need for rethinking new ways of interacting to each other and to engage into more qualitative relationships. This is only very a snapshot of very short time that we had.
Thanks, David. That's really something that I hope we can do as a community too, support people in the grieving, but also the joy, the collective, a sense of collective purpose, and that we have a collective, that we are in this together. It's interesting how to translate that into community activities. I'd love to hear ideas coming from the group about how the community can support that in the future. So our last summary is coming from Juliana.
Yeah, so I'll be brief. We really talked more about different backgrounds and what brought people together, which was an emphasis on this interest in sense making and community collaboration, as well as applying similar innovation and transformation practices to their respective areas of work. And we had a rich diversity of different practitioners, as well as scholars coming together, and people who were interested in innovating futures, climate action, health innovation, community change, transformative learning and educational spaces and programs, fundraising, and more. And there was a strong link with Theory U, a lot of people who were strongly interested in that or have studied it in the past. And so ideas around how to introduce these types of transformative practices, particularly of sense making and meaning making, to different contexts and audiences was raised, as well as what kind of different evaluation models are developed for sense making, and if we are using them or applying them, as well as within the broader transformation community, kind of bringing those connections together with some of the state of the field innovations that really were highlighted in their article. So I'll stop there for now.
Thanks, Juliana. So on to our last slide, I believe. Thank you. So note our connections. And I'm reflecting on this incredibly deep, rich conversation. And we're going to be, we have a video, we're going to share it. We're also going to digest it a bit and share it in different formats. I don't know about you, but this kinds of things I need to be exposed to repeatedly in different ways. It really takes a while to sink in. And I'll take, David, I'll take your invitation to get outside for the rest of the day and allow some of the rich ideas and possibilities for our community to sink in. And so I want to invite you all again to join us for our learning journeys on design and management of transformations initiatives and our AI initiative. So fill in that questionnaire that was in chat. I think we can put it back in if it's gotten buried. And we're doing a lot of partnered work these days with other organizations in our so-called ecosystem, like the transitions folks at IST and the Sustainability Research and Innovation Congress and the IPBES Transformations Assessment Program. So we're always open and eager to have partnered relationships with other organizations. So would love to be invited to be a part of what you're doing. And of course, if you want to sponsor or be the local host for a workshop or conference, we have the capacity to support you and the experience to do it well in a rich mailing list. So we're looking for partners for our local hosts for our 25 events, as well as other things, other workshops and opportunities. So come join our effort, be an active part of our community. We look forward to engaging with you individually and collectively, and look forward to seeing you all at Transformations 25. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nick Torres, for your amazing stewardship of the SIJ Journal, and Nicolaj for your expertise and editorial guidance, and to Thomas Hasselbach for organizing this event in a very deep way. Thomas, thank you so much. You've done an amazing job. Thank you all, and I hope to see you all soon.